such an honor to be here on Zoom interviewing with you. I honestly never thought I would be sitting here right now talking to you. You are a great video producer, conspiracy theorist, YouTuber, and creator, possessing 25,000 subscribers on YouTube alone and almost 16,000 followers on Facebook and 470 Patreon subscribers. That is quite an accomplishment. I must admit, I try to learn some nifty video tricks from some of your videos since I just created my own YouTube channel. It's called Letty G. I just changed it. I am a rookie, but I am learning along the way. Again, I'm just so thrilled to be interviewing with you today. So I stumbled across one of your videos a little over a year ago. The video I watched covered a lot of topics that I was dying to know more about, but I was frustrated because the news would not talk about anything else other than the coronavirus. So after watching your video, I had all of my questions and concerns answered, and I had learned a couple new things by the end of it all. I really appreciated how you visibly show and tell everyone where you get your information from. That was really important to me. I also like how you're not afraid to speak the truth and how you're not afraid of putting things on blast in efforts to help people be woke and even be healthy and safe in a way. Since then, I have been a huge fan. Today, I wanted to discuss the topic of aliens. I could not think of anyone better to ask. But before we dive in, I wanted to ask a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the compliments too. That totally made my day.
Yeah, no problem. So the first question I wanted to ask is, how did you come up with your name or alias of DoeNut?
Okay, yeah. Oh, and also just to add about what you were just saying earlier about showing like the information, it's good to show the sources, and I don't really link all the sources, but I show them because there's something like you look at them. I show a lot of mainstream news articles because you see the mainstream talk about it.
Yeah.
We're so programmed to believe that the mainstream is always correct. So I always like to show the most mainstream articles as possible.
Yeah.
And the whole like building of the channel too. I've been doing these videos, like music videos. So the name, how I came up with DoeNut was I went by a totally different name. It was like my last name. And I've been doing videos forever, doing music videos. I was in the music industry. I worked with people in LA that were like Grammy Award winners, mostly underground artists, doing a lot of underground work because I grew up listening to underground hip hop and punk and whatever. So that was my way into the industry, I thought, you know.
Nice.
And then I was taught about branding, and I didn't believe in branding. I don't care. I'm an artist. I'm gonna do whatever I want. But the guy that was mentoring me at the time, he's produced Tupac. He's produced a lot of people, and he was telling me, and I'm a young kid. I'm struggling in life. This was like 2012, and I'm just going through it. And I'm listening to conspiracies all the time, but that was like I listen to conspiracy theories, like Michael Tessarian, Jordan Maxwell, and I would edit these music videos while I was listening to it. It's what inspired me. So it was never something that I focused on because I was like, I'm going to make music videos.
Yeah.
And this guy was talking about branding. So I put it to the test, and I was like, I'm just going to call myself DoeNut because I thought about it when I was working at Costco selling air conditioners. And whenever I get a thought, I write it down immediately because thoughts are like slippery fish. If you don't catch it with a pen, you'll forget about it. So I got so many notes of just weird names of stuff. And I said, it'd be cool to write DoeNut like DOE, because that can mean like dough, like money, or what up, dough. And some people call weed dough, you know, like
Yeah,
dodo or whatever.
yeah.
So I was like, it would be cool to name it that. And then I was like, I'm going to put this branding thing to test and call it DoeNut. And I thought it was smart because Steven Spielberg, who's also a filmmaker that, you know, I want to do filmmaking
Mm,
and studying all this psychological warfare that the, you know, under mind control, people put us in psychological warfare,
yeah,
that the movie industry does this. Hollywood does this. And Steven Spielberg made Jaws, which made everyone scared to go to the ocean. So whenever you went to the ocean, you think about like a shark going to eat you. The beaches
yeah,
were empty. And the governments look into that. They're like, wow, that's psychological warfare. The movie The Birds with Alfred Hitchcock, when that movie came out, like you see a bird in the sky, you're like, is that bird going to eat me? And
yeah,
so I thought donut, everyone loves donuts. Who
yeah.
doesn't like donuts? So I said, I'll do donut. People go see a donut in Circle K. They're going to think about donut. And
That's
that's just how it started.
true. That's really true. That was very tactful. Like that was a good idea. Cause yeah, it's funny because since I've started watching your videos, my kids are like, they always know what I'm watching because they hear, hey, it's Donut. And they're like, Mom, another video. And I'm like, yeah, sorry. Like I want to learn more. And it's so funny because my daughter, my oldest one, she's like, do you really think aliens are real? And I'm like, I think so, baby. I'm like, but we got to figure this out. We got to do some, research and come up with our own opinion. So she's so there's nights where she sits with me and she'll lay in the bed with me and watch your videos. And we got PO'd one day because one of them wouldn't load for like 2 days, but it was YouTube. It was, I don't know, it's being funky, but we finally got it to work. I put it on my husband's phone and it worked. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I got interested in aliens at a young age too. My mom, she would tell me about alien stuff that happened in Massachusetts. My uncle would tell me about Area 51. Family friends who worked on Area 51 would tell me about it and saying that they can't really tell me what's going on, but something's going on. And the X-Files would come on after The Simpsons as a kid, and I'd be like, oh.
After The Simpsons, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. I think it's important to, that is what really inspired me when I was younger, was being, you know, my mom very open-minded on extraterrestrial aliens, boogeymen, just the whole sphere. My dad's side, he doesn't really care about that kind of stuff. So I had like this good balance. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
I think that's how my family dynamic goes within my house. I'm the one that's like, oh, I need to know about this. And my husband just goes with it. All right. Well, thank you for answering that first question. So I'm going to ask the second question. What motivated you to research the topics that you do and make videos about it all? I mean, you fearlessly made videos covering the Illuminati, aliens, rituals, truths behind holidays, which I really liked, saving the children, which I also really liked, Jeffrey Epstein, the coronavirus, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. I could go on. What caused that motivation?
Good question. I would probably bring it back to the whole punk movement. I grew up in Vegas, so I couldn't go anywhere. Everything's 21 and up in Las Vegas. So when you're a kid, the only thing you can do is you can go to a concert pretty much. So I grew up in the punk community, which has different belief system than I do today as I grow up older, but it really opened my mind. And like I listened to the Dead Kennedys or whatever, and I remember learning about all this stuff about how the government's corrupt, and I would travel a lot. I was blessed when I was younger to get to travel, and I remember I went to Berkeley. I would buy political books, the Anarchist Cookbook, and I'm like 8 years old or something. I'm a little kid. I don't know anything going on. But then 9/11 happened, and they had like a picture of George Bush wearing the Osama bin Laden outfit. And I don't know what it was, but something clicked. All the stuff that I was learning, it clicked. And going to school and questioning the teachers because I was rebellious, I would say. Nobody had the answers to anything. And then if you question them, you get laughed at. The whole class laughs and I don't know what it is. I think it's just like it's an excitement, a calling. We were talking earlier about going with the flow of things. I always just went with the flow of things. My mom told me about aliens as a kid. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it was that got me into it, but I don't even look at it like talking about the stuff on the internet as fearless at all. Like talking about these subjects, because I'll interview people and then they'll tell me to take down the video afterwards because they're like scared, like, oh, what if the Illuminati gets me? And I'm just like if you're gonna fear, what's there to fear? I come to the understanding that I have no control over anything except for my attitudes and my actions. So as long as I keep my side of the street clean and I don't hurt anybody, what do I have to fear except for like God?
Yeah.
And I'm not like fighting against anything. I don't fight. I'm just talking and interested in learning.
Yeah, same. And it's funny that you mentioned that, like, how someone may ask you to take it down because they're worried. I've thought about that, especially, with knowing that it'll be on my channel. Like, family and friends may learn something new about me because I don't really talk about this to just anyone. I mean, my parents know me, my husband knows me, everybody knows, my closest people know how I think and what I feel about things, but I guess it'll just be a learning experience for friends and extended family. But I've always said I'm not here on this planet to please anyone else, So.
Yeah, it's something about the truth is just like it's like the rabbit hole. Like you find a little bit of truth, and I think it goes into the mind, body, spirit, where your mind, you want to learn something new every day, because it kind of, when I learn something new on any topic, I feel more alive. And it's a mind, body, spirit. You got to take care of the body, which I haven't been doing like my whole life. But now I'm recovering that and working on that. And the spirit with praying.
Well, that's a good, accomplishment all on its own. And I know how that could be, so that's good. So we'll move on to our next question. You often mention how you grew up Jewish. Are you still a practicing Jewish? I ask because I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and although I am no longer a Jehovah's Witness, I appreciate my journey in the faith while it lasted, because I have a lot of background knowledge about the Bible and ancient times, and I feel that it's a great foundation for putting the pieces of the topics that you cover together. Would you agree?
Yeah, I like how you said it. I feel like I'm sort of on the same plane as you with that. I grew up Jewish, and I liked it a lot because I learned about the ancient text and all the wisdom that comes from the old times. It's like studying history.
Yeah.
And I really keep my whole, religious beliefs. I don't really dive into that because I look at it that if you can find a God, I think there's power in God. So I don't want to like disrupt anybody's God. I don't practice, right? But a lot of what I've learned, I take that, it's beautiful traditions, and I like it. And right now I'm reading this book on the psyche, like Carl Jung's archetypes, and it goes into the ancient Egyptian gods. And I like this. I like studying religion and
Yeah.
the Hindu religion and astrology, where a lot of stuff comes from. I always recommend people check out Jordan Maxwell because he goes into those topics a lot. But I found that I was a kid, I went to temple, did the whole bar mitzvah thing, and then after that, I was like, I'm a man now. I'm gonna do drugs
Oh
and
no.
party and yeah, all that crazy stuff.
Oh,
And I kind of fell away from God in a sense, right?
yeah.
And I felt crazy. But then when I got sober, and I'm coming up almost on 6 years,
Wow. That's
um,
good.
the only thing that relieved my like that helped me out was a God. Like, so I can't explain it and I don't try to explain it, but there was something that wasn't me that took away that obsession. So I believe in God. I don't know what it is. I'm just a little stupid human walking around. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. But
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've, a lot of my young life went to being a Jehovah's Witness, and there's just so much like scandal within being the religion or being in it. And, that was just my experience. I can't speak for anyone else's, but at the end of the day, I do believe there's something. I mean, we didn't just come out of thin air. So I just believe in a higher power and just being a good person. Uh,
yeah, me too.
Okay, so our next question, let me bring it up closer, can't see. For my English class this semester, I am doing my main writing assignment on the topic of aliens. My goal is to challenge people's minds to think about this and to strive to educate themselves and to become more familiar with the facts that are out there because we are living in such a unique and unsettling time. We just don't know what is next, especially since the CIA has released information admitting to knowing about extraterrestrial life. I am just going to come right out and ask, do you believe in aliens?
Yeah, yes, I do believe in aliens. And I think there's a lot of different types of aliens. I think it's not just one ET walking around. I think that
Yeah.
there's the subterranean aliens that are in the deep underground military bases,
Mhm.
uh, which goes into the Vril aliens, which I did a whole documentary on, which got banned on
Yeah.
Vimeo, Rumble.
Yeah. And
I
that
got
was really interesting. I had never even heard of what real aliens were. I was like, and what was really weird about that was I felt like I knew it within myself, which is like weird, like an intuition thing. But it was like when I was reading or watching your video, I was like, whoa, like that's where it was a crazy moment for me.
Yeah, that crazy moment happened to me too because I would hear about it on the internet and I'm like researching it, trying to think of a video to make. And I'm like, why don't I just make the video that I'm researching? So that's sort of what I do with the videos is that whatever I'm researching at that moment, I'm like, well, if I'm researching it, other people want to research it. And I
Yeah.
think we were talking about that earlier. If I have that question, I'm sure other people have that question.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
also think there's interdimensional aliens as well that come from like quantum space, like CERN working on computers, saying they're opening portals. I believe that there's aliens out there, which goes back to the Torah and the Jewish Torah in the Bible or whatever, the Nephilim, which are
Mhm.
the fallen angels that, like, I guess, mated with earthly women. And people
Oh,
could call them Anunnaki, which goes back to the Sumerian texts.
oh wow.
And yeah, so there's a lot of like evidence of ancient cultures and uh, whatnot.
And wait, what was that one called again?
The
That
Anunnaki.
How do you spell that?
The Anunnaki. It is spelled Anunnaki. And Zachariah Stitchin talked about it a lot. I haven't really read any of his books or anything. I'm just aware of just the basic information on it. But they got
Okay.
Sumerian text and tablets where they show the entire solar system.
Mhm.
And it's like, how did this ancient people know how
Oh,
all the planets are aligned?
yeah.
And there's also an extra planet, which people call Nibiru, which is like a planet that comes along every like 4,000 years or something.
Oh, wow. I was going
Yeah.
to say, I think I've heard of it, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. People call it Planet X. You probably heard Planet X before.
Yeah.
That's where like it comes from.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting. That's good. New, new for me. Okay, so about 4 years ago, I didn't believe in aliens. I thought the idea of them was just ludicrous. It was until I began to run into people and have these deep intellectual conversations about things that most people don't talk about that I realized I should consider the possibility of their existence. Did you have a similar epiphany, or can you tell me about your journey on how you came to accept that they may be real? Well, I guess you kind of already did that.
I always thought they were real. I always had a really like crazy imagination. I still do. Um, of boogeymen or things underneath the bed or monsters, demons, aliens. I've always been aware of like the spirit realm and that there's more than we see.
Yeah.
And you kind of get laughed at throughout life about these things. But then the more you research it, the more you see that we only see such a small spectrum of visible light, that there's so much going on that we don't see. The great quote of "I know that I know nothing," is like a wisdom type quote. So
Yeah.
I know that I just don't know anything. I'm not an expert at anything, and that keeps me willing to keep learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also broke like have I could do the screen share and I can just
Yeah.
run through like alien
I would
uh
love it. Go ahead.
alien history or whatever. And I'll try to
I'm
do it really,
ready
really.
for this.
Well, I don't know how good it's going to be, but I'm just going to like scroll through it just to show stuff. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this just came out yesterday, April 13th. UFO caught on camera. Pentagon confirms leaked images and video are real. And so there's evidence coming out. They're leaking all this information, like you were talking about the CIA classified files. They're really getting us ready for some sort of UFO encounter. Uh,
Mhm.
military, uh, military XMOD investigator says that these UFOs are hypersonic drones from China and Russia. And this whole USS Nimitz Tic Tac, this is where the declassified information, where they're like, yeah, there's UFOs, they're real. They start showing you this from 2004. But it's like the lead singer of the pop culture, MTV, brainwashing, Travis Barker, or whatever,
Yeah.
they're the ones who are leaking this classified military information. It's just very suspect to me. But I
Mhm.
know that all these musicians work with the government and they're preparing us for something. And I think that there are aliens, but the aliens that they're going to show us aren't the real aliens. And we were talking about the Nephilim, the fallen angels that mated with earthly women. This
Mhm.
is where it's in the Torah and in the Bible. And even in the Torah, it says Elohim, and Lohim, I believe, is plural. So it means the gods, more than one. So, like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
And movie Prometheus is sort of like the Anunnaki or the Nephilim, where they plan. If you ever see this movie, this is sort of what the elites believe in. They believe that this happened. If it's true or not true, the Anunnaki, which we were talking about the Sumerian text. Let me see if I could find that picture. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. So like this is old Sumerian text, and they got all the planets exactly like how they're lined out. Like, how did they know this? They didn't have the technology. And then there's like an extra planet there too, and that's Nibiru. I'm just gonna go by real fast and
No, you're good.
So we have the Storm Area 51 event, which was a Facebook event, and 1 month before this, 1 month after this is how we got the coronavirus after it. So I think there is a connection there. Nobody showed up to this event. People are like, people showed up, but I mean, it wasn't really a huge turnout. People don't really care. And the Area 51, there's deep underground military bases all over the world where they could be harvesting aliens, cloning aliens, learning alien technology. And people are like, well, if this is true, then how come nobody's leaked the information? And it's always good to go back to the Manhattan Project that took place during World War II. And they employed over 100,000 people to work on nuclear weapons. And 100,000 people were working at this and no one said anything. So, I mean, there's a conspiracy in that people can keep secrets. Right. And we're seeing UFO sightings spiking during the coronavirus. People were stuck inside their homes, but when people went outside, there's just a ton of different UFO sightings. Could this be aliens or could this be military preparing us for something? UFO sightings in US rose sharply during the pandemic. March 13th was the day that the president declared a national emergency of the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's the exact same day here in Arizona, like, we got the Phoenix Lights on March 13th. So I think that there's like a connection to the dates and times when they do stuff. We see Israeli space security chief saying there's extraterrestrial and Trump knows about it. And going into the whole, like each one of these, I'm just going through like all the topics. So we can show like there's a lot more to the story, but each one of these topics, to break it down, it's its own like hour-long video. But Trump, his uncle took all of Tesla's, the guy who's created the entire world that we have today with electricity, which a lot of people think is alien technology. And Trump's uncle got all of his information and his time traveling notes. So there's like a connection there too, which is like its whole other video.
Yeah, and I've watched that one, and that is pretty mind-boggling all on its own. I'm like, that is pretty hard to not believe after you learn about all of it. You're like, wow.
Yeah, so there's a video. All these topics, you can watch like little videos, like the time traveling video to go more into detail.
Yeah.
But JFK might have known about the aliens, and this is why Marilyn Monroe and JFK were assassinated because of this. Tesla's time machine, Donald Trump's uncle had the notes on this. And I've even heard stories that Tesla saying that he'd go to bed with a notepad next to his desk, and then he'd wake up and it would be all filled out as if like an alien or someone was writing it. Wow. And during the Cold War, Reagan at the UN and Gorbachev, I'm terrible at pronouncing these words, these people, they said they would pause the Cold War in case of an alien invasion. So this goes into Project Bluebeam, where they're going to fake an alien invasion using holograms. We see all the holograms with the Tupac hologram.
Yeah.
And this will scare everybody, and this will bring in a one world religion and a one world government.
Hmm.
UFO sighting surge in New York, Project Bluebeam. I'm trying to, the computer. Oop.
And to talk about like today's Tesla, is it Elon Musk that's behind all of that?
Yeah, so Elon Musk, his company is called Tesla,
Okay.
and Tesla, that's just a government project. The
Okay.
government funded Tesla through subsidiaries. Everyone thinks Elon Musk is like an entrepreneur, but he's strictly military. He tried to build rockets for Russia, and Russia was like, no, thank you. So he moved on to America, building rockets for us.
Hmm.
He is just a front man. He's like a propaganda front man where people like him. He's likable. And I think he created Bitcoin. He created PayPal and the PayPal mafia, in my own opinion. But everything going on is to have the hyperloops, the self-automated cars, all that is going up into space.
Well, I was bringing him up because have you been, I don't know if you've heard anything about his wife, Grimes.
Yeah, Grimes.
So that was really interesting to me. Like a couple months ago, I discovered her song "We Appreciate Power" by accident. So I was like, dang, this song is cool. And then I look up the lyrics and I'm like, oh, right, maybe it's not. And then, then I don't know, I started following her and Elon Musk on Twitter just because I was curious to see, like, what do they tweet like? What are they about? Well, she recently got a tattoo on her back, and she says that they're alien, um, like lashings or something. It looks like alien lashings, and she says that's what it's from, and or it's inspired by that, and that she wouldn't mind moving to Mars until she was about 50 years old. So and there's some other things that she said, something about she would get another tattoo with her husband's brain chip. And I'm like, see, there's just some kind of connection there. Like they know something that everyone else doesn't. I don't know.
Oh, totally. Grimes, she's a musical artist. Elon Musk marries her. Grimes sells her soul out
That,
of
yeah.
nothing. Grimes wants to take the chip with Lil Uzi Vert. It's there. It's all there. Elon Musk is good friends with Kanye. It's all there just to make people using these influencers like Michael Jackson is a huge influencer, and he was more powerful than governments were because so many people would show up to his concerts or whatnot.
Mhm.
And so they just use these artists with propaganda for to carry out an agenda that they have long term.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
crazy. Yeah, that Grimes.
yeah, I was like, she's
Gotta
so like
check that out.
direct, like just throwing it out there. Like I'm like, well, I don't know.
That's
Oh,
wild.
oops, sorry, the kids are back. 1 second.
Yep,
Okay, sorry.
all good.
Are you ready for me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, what are 3 things you can tell me about extraterrestrials that I may not know already?
Well, so I mean, so there's so many different types of extraterrestrials, right? We
Mhm.
hear about the gray aliens that abduct people. Like in Arizona, we were talking about the Phoenix Lights. In Snowflake, Arizona, there's a famous story of a guy in this movie, Fire in the Sky, is about this true event that happened where this guy was abducted by aliens. So we hear about abductions, but there's also interdimensional aliens, which we're hearing about with scientists doing with CERN, opening up these portals.
Mhm.
And which could be spirits or who knows what they are. But people will take mushrooms or trip out on whatever drugs, and they all see machine elves, like these elf deities, and those could be aliens too. We got the subterranean aliens underground,
Mhm.
and this is what inspired the rise of like the Nazi party. Like they were obsessed with these real aliens, and which were the subterranean alien group. It sounds crazy. It sounds
Yeah.
ridiculously crazy, but this is what they were into.
Mhm.
And it just, who knows what's going on?
Yeah.
Who knows? I have no idea, but I like to learn about what's going on, and
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I I have no idea.
Well, same here. I believe there's something. We're just trying to put our finger on it somewhere.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so do you believe that there is an agenda behind the Storm Area 51 movement and now the recent release of CIA documents? If so, what do you think?
Yeah, so the entire world is run off of algorithms. Algorithms and AI have already hit quantum supremacy, and they're hinting out this like, oh, we're going to reach quantum supremacy. But the computers understand us better than we understand ourselves with our cell phones and Google and all that. I believe that Storm Area 51 was a whole algorithm testing the human population on, will they storm an alien base? Are they even ready for a fake alien invasion?
Mhm.
And no one really cared, right? No one showed up. So
Mhm.
the algorithm was like, release the virus, right? Because that's how we could shut down the planet. So I think that the whole Storm Area 51 was just an algorithm researching through Facebook how people would react. Twitter can predict riots faster than the police. Amazon can ship stuff to you before you order it because it knows before you're going to order it.
Mhm.
And these algorithms could be aliens in other interdimensions. Like it sounds crazy, but that's just what that's what they're saying. Even Stephen Hawking and
Mhm.
all these scientists, that's what they talk about.
Yeah.
So I think the Storm Area 51 was just an algorithm to get us ready for the coronavirus. I really do.
Yeah. Well,
In
it's
my opinion.
interesting how it did happen, the way that it did. So that's a good point. Okay, so from the new and inevitable changes happening in the world as far as the coronavirus, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency possibly being groomed for an alien invasion, robots, AI technology advancements, the traveling to and curiosity of Mars, do you think this is a time to be aware and try to prosper, or do you think it is the best time to conform and surrender?
I like how you wrote that question out.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So I think you everything, there's a balance of good and evil, right? And I believe that our hard adversities make us stronger. The spiritual growth comes from pain. Spirituality is painful. So all the pain that people go through become an asset. So if you go through a hard time, that you can either let it take over your life or you can use that as an asset. All of the hardships that I've gone through my life, those are assets, and they're very strong. So the prosper, in my opinion, is to get right with yourself, forgive yourself, make all your wrongs right, however that is,
Yeah.
have a conscious contact with a higher power or God, or um, just doing good, really just recovering yourself first. And I think that living through 2008 and the collapse and the wealth transfer and seeing it happen again with the government shutting down all small businesses, how do you thrive? Because the goal is to make everybody broke and poor, or you'll own nothing and be happy.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to learn to make money, have cash flows come in, whatever that is, if that's starting a business or whatever it is. But I'm trying to connect the dots here.
It's
So
okay.
what I do is I have a job doing YouTube videos for other companies. Then I do my YouTube for my own self to grow, and then I'll sell a book, and then I'll invest that money too into assets like real estate or cryptos, the right ones, precious metals, whatever is an asset. So it's like cash flow, invest, like getting right with yourself and God in the world,
Yeah.
working. It's all about being a service.
Yeah.
Like being a service is, and it all works out. Like all those plans that I'm talking about, like get cash flow, cryptos, and assets,
Yeah.
those are just my own plans. And everything tends to work out as long as I surrender. So it's, I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one to make, but I know what you mean. Like it's a combination of all of it in a way, right?
It is. It's like a combination of it all.
Yeah. Okay, so um
I hope I said that right. That was probably a
no, yeah,
terrible.
you did. You did. I was like, well, actually that all just answered the next question, so I'm gonna just skip along to the next one if you're okay with
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So why do you think all of this information is important today?
Because it's just searching for the truth.
Hmm.
I think it's important. I think the freedom of speech is important. The freedom of expression is important. I believe that when you censor yourself, we got everyone censoring themselves just so they can be on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
It's thought police. And that's not the way that we're naturally born. We're not naturally born to suppress things. I think a
Mhm.
lot of trauma comes from suppression,
Yeah.
and therapists maybe like Carl Jung will might talk about the shadow self or whatever
Mhm.
that. And because what I'm doing is just freedom of expression, I should be allowed to talk about whatever I want, and not censor my thoughts as an artist and just in community and being truthful. I think it's very important. I think it's an important principle in life in general.
Yeah, and it's refreshing because of the time that we're living in, how freedom of speech is being censored. And, I think it's kind of crazy every time I hear about it, which it seems like it's every other day, that we're actually living in this time where this kind of stuff is happening, which is mind boggling all on its own. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is, well, good time to be alive. We
Yeah.
live in paradise too. Like we live in a time where we can have food like delivered to us,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean? So there's a lot of bad going on, but there's also a lot of good going on too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of
It's
cool
like
advances.
glass half full or half empty, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what are some questions about this topic that just cannot be answered?
About the aliens,
Yeah. Yeah, we are kind of bounced off the walls everywhere.
that's a good question. The news tells us one thing, right?
Mhm.
Like with the whole thing with crypto, JP Morgan is like, Bitcoin's a scam, all this stuff. Then it turns out he's investing in Ethereum or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, it's like whatever the news is telling us is fake most of the time, or it could be even like a teacher or whatever it is. Like the teachers will teach the kids science, and then 100 years, all that science turned out to be wrong, and then the next 100 years, it all turned out to be wrong. So I would say and this is probably not even answering the question, but kind of going back to your own intuition and your gut and like asking yourself, what do you think's going on? That's sort of what I've been practicing the last couple years. Like,
Mhm.
like when I started the YouTube channel, everybody in my family, friends, they were all freaking out. Like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. This is insane. But it was a good move because
Mhm.
now I got the Patreon and I could it's fun and it was a good move. And then with crypto, I also would buy crypto when everyone was like, no, don't do that.
Mhm.
Like I just start trusting myself
Mhm.
rather than
What everyone says around you. Yeah.
yeah. I'll listen to people.
Yeah.
I listen my whole life to people, so now I'm sort of trying to go back to my gut.
So do you think that mankind will ever have to somehow coexist with extraterrestrial beings?
Uh, I we were talking about this earlier. I also agree that we already do. I already
Yeah.
believe that aliens could be running the entire show. They could be the military. I mean, all the stuff that goes on in the world is very not human, right? Like, who wants to like bomb a bunch of like children? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Or all the stuff that goes on, it's
Yeah.
not human. So I think we already do.
Mhm.
Um, but if we don't, and that's gonna come in the future, I could see it.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say the greatest misconception about extraterrestrial life is?
I think the biggest misconception is that whoever talks about these things are discredited and it's just hocus pocus when
Mhm.
there's a lot of evidence throughout history pointing towards that. So I think that it's the misconception is not of the aliens, but it's of people who are questioning what they're told.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you would like to share that you feel would be beneficial to my assignment?
Um, the mind's like a parachute. It only works if it's open. I said that to my friend and he was all like, yeah, but then if you have an open mind, then you're just going to let any garbage come in too. So now I'm like questioning that quote, which is good.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh, I
always,
like it. It makes you think about it, but
yeah, but that's it. Well, I'm happy to talk to you. Thank you for letting me be part of the project.
and thank you too. Like this is so exciting. So I'm
Yes.
I've been so stoked about it. My kids are like, "When's your interview?"
That
Okay.
was fun.
Yeah, that was. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure too.
All right.
Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.